Hello and welcome to part last. We are almost done here, okay? So we were talking about smell, and I was mentioning how it's linked to memory, but it's also linked to how we manage who we are and others' perceptions of us. That's what I had not said in regard to managing our smell. We do all of this stuff to manage smell, and it communicates a lot about us. I mean, it can communicate beyond even what we imagine, especially because we can actually, our smell sense is so sensitive, we can smell the pheromone signature that each person has if we are with them over a long period of time. So people who are attractive to us and who we have feelings for, we can actually pick up on their unique. Each person has a unique pheromone signature, and the longer we're with them, the more we pick up on that. And so it's one of the reasons why when your significant other leaves, you might want something that smells like them. And something that smells like them will be part whatever soap or cologne or perfume or whatever lotion they use, and part something they've worn that smells like them. It's one of the reasons why certain colognes and certain perfumes smell certain ways on certain people. I can't wear the soap or the lotion or the cologne that other people can, because my pheromone signature is different. So really, really cool stuff going in there. Next, you've got physical appearance and attractiveness. You can't not assess this. We see people's physical appearance. And attractiveness does not mean you are necessarily attracted to them, but you see how people look. You see how people look, you assess it, and how overt the assessment is going to be up to you. But we see physical appearance, we see physical attractiveness, and sometimes facial attractiveness and symmetry is usually something that we see as being attractive. We spoke about how language can impact this, how language the use of powerful language can impact attractiveness perception. But we see attractiveness and we assess attractiveness, and so it is just a part of how we see things, and it impacts how people understand us. So then we have environment and context. So the rooms that we are in, the things that we are surrounded by communicate, okay? And so someone who is on a tour of this building could come into my office, they could look around, and they could see some things, and they could make some assessments of me, and they would be probably pretty accurate. Okay, you can't see it right here, but right here I've got some paintings that I've done on a bulletin board that's just like this bulletin board back here. I'll just point like this right here. These are pictures of my family, so my family is important to me. You could probably guess, right? But then I've got things that I've painted up here, so maybe it's got my signature on there, so they could put two and two together and think that that's something that I like to do. So the environment and context communicates. The colors communicate. If you go to a restaurant, look around and pay attention. Those environments, especially if it's a larger, if it's part of a chain, or if it's a part of some group of restaurants, you're going to notice that they are decorated, they are lighted, the music that they play, everything is very specific to the context, and they are doing something very, very real there. Okay. So here's a quick thing for you. Have you been to a Chipotle? You probably have. Inside of a Chipotle, 9 times out of 10, what is the temperature of the place? It's probably freezing cold in the Chipotle. Most of the time when you go into Chipotle, if you go back in the parts where you're going to sit, it's probably a little bit cool. All right. What's the furniture like? Well, it's hip and it's arty, but it's uncomfortable. Those chairs at those tables and those booths are solid wood. The tables that you sit at are made of ice cold metal. That environment and that context does not want you to sit there and hang out for a long time. That environment is meant to create a space where you sit, eat, and leave. They want people in and out the door. And so they create that. If you go to a nice restaurant, it's going to be very different than Chipotle. I'm not saying Chipotle is bad or anything, but it's got a very specific thing. If you go to a nice restaurant, the lights are going to be lower, Music's going to be slower. It's going to be different. The pace is going to be very, very different. It's there on purpose. Okay? So then we get to clothing, the stuff that we put on our bodies. So the stuff that we choose communicates. And the ways that we do our hair, the ways that we choose to tattoo, the ways that we choose to do piercings or just wear jewelry or anything like that, it all communicates something about us. And you can decide how much effort to put into those things, but it all says something about how we see ourselves and how we want other people to see us. It all communicates. I mean, think about it. If I were on camera in every single screencast in a tuxedo versus, you know, my sort of semi-professional clothes here, it would be very different, wouldn't it? It would also be different if I were in a full suit and tie here, right? It would also be different if I had, you know, shoulder-length hair and wore sunglasses in every single one of my screencasts, right? It just says something about me. Now, I could still be a good teacher and wear all of those things, okay? But they communicate, all right? Paralanguage and voice. So paralanguage has to do with the rate, the tone, the pitch, the speed, all of it, how I sound, the ways I articulate my words, if my volume is loud, if my volume is soft, how am I actually saying it? So the whole how you say it is right here. This is just how you say things, how you sound, how you say things, okay? So paralanguage is why sarcasm can be effective. Paralanguage is also why sarcasm can be difficult for people from other cultures to pick up. Sarcasm is not in the language. Sarcasm is nonverbal. In English, it is anyway, okay? So for me to be sarcastic, I have to deal with my tone. I have to deal with my timing. I have to deal with the context and people that I'm doing. Sarcasm is nonverbal, okay? So that's paralanguage and voice. And then last is silence. How do you use silence? What does it mean? How do you use it in your conversations? Where are the spaces? Where is the silence? Where is it accepted? Where is it not? Have you gone someplace where silence is sort of demanded? I just came from the library because I was working in the writing center. It's quiet in there, right? I wouldn't talk even this loud in the library. Okay, so what does it say and what does it mean and what weight does it carry? Okay, so folks, those are our types of nonverbal communication. And now just to wrap up very, very quickly, if messages are contradictory, which is more often believed? If I've got verbal and nonverbal, which one do I believe? We believe the nonverbal, okay? Why? Because verbal enforces our verbal message. If I say it's good to see you versus it's good to see you, those two things mean completely different things and the words are exactly the same thing. My nonverbals enforce my verbal message. There's multiple channels going on. You as a human being, we talked about this in perception, you have all this perceptual data hitting you and you can't just take in just the words. You're going to have other stuff that comes in with it, okay? So you have multiple channels there. We're constantly communicating is what the nonverbal scholars would say. And we use nonverbal to punctuate what it is that we're saying, okay? So that's how you know when I'm done talking. The silence. I will end a sentence down versus end a sentence up. The verbal punctuation is the verbal punctuation. The way that I say it is the nonverbal punctuation. And it carries relationship level meaning, okay? The ways that we do our nonverbals are going to tell us about the relationship. I mentioned this earlier with touch, but you've got responsiveness. How do we respond to each other nonverbally? What's going on there? Do your eyes light up when you see someone? Are you going to roll your eyes when you see someone? You know, the person who's always late to the conference room meeting where everyone's at, and they walk in, everybody rolls their eyes. Everyone knows what everyone's saying, but nobody actually said anything. How are we responding? What's the level of responsiveness? We're not to conflict yet, but when we get to stonewalling is a lack of responsiveness. And so if you're in conflict with someone who you are in an interpersonal relationship with, and they're just stony, you're getting nothing from them, it's a bad sign. It's a bad sign. So there's responsiveness, there's liking. We show liking through our nonverbals. We look. There's also things we do with ourselves. If I like someone, I self-touch. I turn toward. There's all sorts of different ways that we do this. And then I talked about power. We talked about how touches are powerful. Handshakes are powerful. Politicians try to have the upper hand in a handshake. They will always want to be, if you're looking at a photo, they want to be on with their hand like this. Okay? They want the outside of their hand to be in the photo. They don't want to be in the photo like this. Okay? With their hand like this. On the bottom, they want to be like this. Okay? So power touch is power touch. The ways we sound is powerful. The ways we carry ourselves can communicate power. The ways rooms are set up can communicate power. It's all there in the relationship level meaning. Okay? So those are just a few of the things I wanted to pull out for nonverbal communication. There is so much more there. Really dig into your chapter. It's really good stuff. And I will see you in the boards.